Sean Haney here with RealAgriculture and Real Ag Radio. We're at Farm Tech 2020 in Edmonton, Alberta. Joining me right now is Doug Mills. He's with the Port of Vancouver. Doug, how's it going?
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, this is going to be fun. We talked to the railways lots. We talked to grain companies. Of course, we're always talking to farmers. We don't get to talk to people from the ports very often. So what was kind of your message today to the delegates?
Well, it was really connecting the grassroots farmer who are simply trying to do their business and give them some comfort that we're focused on keeping capacity open for them to export their goods. And we're very busy, have been very busy and continue to be very busy, looking 10 to 20 years out into what major projects we need to be focused on to ensure that flow continues.
So in 2019, how was business? Because, of course, we've heard so much about limited trade with countries like China. But obviously, Canada was doing very good business in Japan from an agricultural perspective with the CPTPP. So how was 2019 for you?
2019 was another very busy year. Our numbers were up slightly. Agri was a little on the flat side, but generally speaking, the Port of Vancouver experiences about a 3.7% growth rate year over year, and that's on 147 million tons. Well,
farmers we're a notorious bunch for having problems and issues in front of us. What is your biggest, as the Port of Vancouver, what's your biggest issue right now?
Our biggest issue? Well, we have a number of projects that we're frantically working to get finished. Those include infrastructure projects, one of which includes a major terminal development that we've been actually working on for over 8 years.
8 years?
8 years. The processes for getting approvals on environment, etc., just are very arduous, and in some cases for good reason. But that's why we're so focused so far out in the future, is to bring that kind of big infrastructure on that's needed. Takes a lot of planning and forecasting.
From a port perspective, how competitive is Canada compared to some of the ports like in Seattle or the Port of Los Angeles? How are we doing?
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but we're the largest exporting port in North America.
Really?
We're bigger than any other exporter. If you're talking total tonnages, including domestic, there's a couple other ports down in the States that are bigger, but they move a lot of domestic cargo on the Mississippi River.
Yeah,
but
that's cheating. We don't count that.
Exactly. So we're really a key hub for access to market in terms of Canada's GDP. We're a major economic driver. And I think most of the supply chain participants fully understand that, and we're fortunate that we have a lot of support in ensuring we keep that supply chain open.
Obviously the railways are the delivery mechanism to port, integral for Western Canadian farmers who are land bound to get access to your facilities. When you have discussions with railways, what is the context of that discussion? Are you helping each other out with productivity and efficiency? What is it? Give us some logistics on that.
So we work very closely with the railways. We can't build infrastructure without their participation because one doesn't work without the other, and vice versa. So when we're talking about major investments, we're most certainly looking to them for their pieces that are going to augment what it is that we need to do, and again, vice versa. So, for example, we've already identified a significant number of projects necessary to meet our growth goals moving out in the future, and we have those projects that the railways will deliver. Those then go in partnership with other, like overpasses, to go over the railways that we will build to help support the rail movement in. So it's very much a partnership and an understanding who all the supply chain partners are, and are they doing their part in ensuring it's good for all of us.
And are you putting pressure on them to maintain, even increase investment in those capital projects to be able to deliver you that product as efficiently as possible?
Yeah, pressuring might be a strong word. I think what we're doing is identifying them. For example, we've just been issued funding for a new project called our Supply Chain Visibility Project. And what that will do is give us real-time data in terms of the movement of cargo by road and by rail and through our terminals and on our ships from end to end that will help to support our decision making so the railways and us can see where the bottlenecks are and where we need to employ those resources. So I think it's more about the discussion and identification of where investments need to be made. And I think we've been quite successful in doing that up to date.
How much is the word precision used internally at the Port of Vancouver? Now, the reason why I ask that is, farmers here are talking a lot about precision agriculture.
Right.
The railways and other stakeholders are talking about precision railroading. Right. Is there precision terminaling?
Absolutely.
There is?
There is. And terminals very conscious about getting productivity. They're competing with each other. So they're going to be offering their services to the major international shipping lines who are going to want to load their ships as quickly and efficiently as possible. And every few years their contracts come due and they're going to be negotiating for the best opportunity to do that. So most certainly it does. As a port authority, though, we're more of a landlord. We're a federal jurisdiction. We come under Transport Canada. So we're not directly involved in the daily operations of the supply chain. We're more so there to support the infrastructure to ensure that while the decision making is happening, that the lack of infrastructure or use of that infrastructure isn't the impeding part of it.
Interesting. Oh, okay. What is the CPTPP deal meant to the Port of Vancouver?
You forgive me. I also cover many other supply chains. All the bulk products, oil, gas, etc. Remind me, CBT. I know the acronym.
CPTPP, the comprehensive, the TPP, like the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Sure. Sure.
So, Doug, what is the Trans-Pacific Partnership meant to a port like the Port of Vancouver?
Well, obviously, it means increased access to markets for our customers. What that means is we're constantly evaluating what tonnage differences that will mean in terms of utilization of our assets. So we constantly run demand forecasts based on new agreements, based on new supply chains or maturing supply chains that don't move as much. And because we're in a limited area like Vancouver where there isn't a lot of land, we have to ensure we use what we use very efficiently, that we maximize our opportunity to move more cargo. So those agreements are going to focus us on, okay, where's it going to move? What terminal is it going to move through? And where do we need to focus in terms of do we have enough capacity to handle that cargo?
So when the Port Authority talks to, you're under Transport Canada.
Correct.
So when you talk to Minister Garneau,
yes.
What are you talking to him about? Like what's your ask when you talk to Minister Garneau?
Yeah, so we're very independent. On the Port Authority under the Canada Marine Act has its own board of directors. We make our own decisions. We make our own money. We don't use any tax dollars. So our ask is more strategic. It's about those pieces of infrastructure that are outside of our jurisdiction that the government might help partner to fund. Like the Supply Chain Visibility Project, to augment the capacity that is outside of our jurisdiction. Those projects that are in the port jurisdiction, we take care of. We fund, we finance, and we find partners to help build those projects. Our ask of the Transportation Minister is to keep the focus for the ability to move cargo through the gateway. So like the National Corridors Fund, like the Asia Pacific Gateway Corridor Initiative that incentivized investments into infrastructure for cargo movement to ensure that the government is focused on the reasons for that because of these forecast demands, because of the opportunities to trade. And I like to say that they're fully apprised of what the risks and opportunities are associated with that.
And keep them aware of regulations that maybe are burdensome to being able to do that business.
Well, there you go. So sometimes our discussions go outside of transport and they might have to do with environmental permits. We have a major terminal that has taken over 8 years.
That seems ridiculous. I know it's a big project. I don't know, but that just seems crazy.
I would perhaps agree with you, but given the processes we have to go through, we're trying to push it through the finish line. Quite honestly, if the project does not come through, we are going to run into some fairly steep walls in terms of meeting demand in the future because we're starting to use up all that container capacity.
This works back to my question about competitiveness.
Yes. So that's one of the issues that our CEO, President CEO Robin Sylvester has brought up. There's limited land capabilities in Vancouver. We're running out of industrial land is one. The other is the time it takes to get environmental improvements through efficiently. We need it to be more efficient. Who approves those environmental and construction permits? What is reasonable? And will we miss demand as a result of not meeting those necessary time constraints?
I'm sort of envisioning like this web of it being a bit of opaque in terms of who approves some of those requests and when you're doing those kind of construction projects. Like when you say 8 years, what is an acceptable timeline? Well, in context, like it should be 4 years. Like what are we talking about?
Well, I'll give an example on the opposite side of the spectrum. China can build a 4 million TEU facility, double the size of Delta Port in just over a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're good example.
Now, I'm not sure we would want to use those practices in this environment.
What are you lobbying for, Doug?
But I think there's a medium somewhere in between.
Right.
Being responsible, which we want to be, but is also responsive to the market.
How much did the CN rail strike hurt you?
Well, we saw some impacts. Most certainly, it had a negative impact on the economy, on businesses. I think we were fortunate that it did end as quick as it did. Any strike is too long. Yeah. But that is an agreement between negotiating partners, and the right outcome came out of it. Hopefully, we don't run into too many more of those. Yeah,
it hurt CN. CN's fourth quarter numbers didn't look too great, but CP had fantastic numbers that came out this morning. So, hey, Doug, thank you very, very much. Really do appreciate it. And thanks for coming to Farm Tech to talk to farmers.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.